Hello, everybody. Welcome to part 4 of the best movies of the year 1999, from the year 1999, tier list, ranking, whatever the hell you want to do. It's really just an excuse to talk movies. All of these movies were released in the year 1990, and I'm going to be ranking them based on these 4 categories here. Boom, boom, here's my fingers. Boom. Classic. Classic means that the movie's a classic. It's amazing. I mean, come on, what else can you say? 2 fingers. What a movie is, it means it's a great film. This means that, it's a really great film. It's just not a classic. I mean, what else can I say about it? And then we go here, boom, boom, boom. And then, that's the guilty pleasure category, isn't it? So what that means is the movie is anywhere from like, okay, you could say it's okay, or you can say that it's your personal favorite, and usually these types of films, the general consensus is that they lean anywhere from okay to not good, but you keep watching them over and over and over and over again for some reason. So that's what guilty pleasure means, but you already knew that. A lot of people don't like this term, but I needed names for a category, so sorry. Number 4, down there with the one finger, is movies that are not necessarily, it's not that they're bad per se, it's just that when you remember seeing them years and years ago, or whenever it was that you watched them last, you remember them fondly, you remember them being classics, masterpieces, and then you watch them again and you're like, oh, okay. So that be what that category means. And now we're gonna continue with our tier list ranking here. Next on the list is Bill Lustig, or William Lustig, whichever you prefer, his film Maniac Cop 2. Now, Maniac Cop 2 is considered by many people to be one of the best sequels of all time, in that it is better than the original. Most people will agree with that. A very, very small group of people will say that the original Maniac Cop is their favorite. It does have Tom Atkins in it. That is one huge, massive plus.
He'll kill again. He enjoys killing.
He strikes without cause.
It also has a lot more Bruce Campbell.
Since when is my personal life any of your business?
Since your wife was found dead in a motel room.
You gotta be wrong.
You want to see the pretty picture?
Even though this isn't exactly Ash Williams style character work from Campbell. So the cast may be strong, although we do get Robert Davi in Maniac Cop 2 and 3 moving forward, and I am a big fan of Davi ever since I saw him as the villain in one of the Fratelli brothers in The Goonies. But then I was a small boy when I saw it, so he scared the shit out of me. And License to Kill, the James Bond film, the first PG-13 James Bond film with exploding heads and pressure devices and lovers getting their hearts cut out off screen, but there was this intense scream. I mean, this is how the movie opens. He basically cuts a dude. He has his goons cut a dude's heart out while the guy screams like ah off camera. And this was like typically, I mean, although there was a lot of innuendo in the previous and action in the previous James Bond films, there was never anything quite as intense as it was in this movie. And he was at the forefront of it because he was the big bad. He was the main baddie there, and he did an amazing job in this movie. And in Maniac Cop 3, you actually get to see him play the good guy. He is a bit of a grizzled detective type, anti-hero, if you will. The type of character you would see in an old noir film. So he's not exactly a good guy per se. He's a good guy. He's the good guy. But he's not like, milquetoast. He's not like, he's closer to like a John McClane type, I guess, although not as actiony because he wears the fedora and he's kind of a classic detective type. Maniac Cop 2 is gorgeous. It's one of the main things it's known for. It looks beautiful, and if you have a chance to check it out, even not just on Blu-ray, but especially the 4K Blu-ray, it's one of the best looking movies that I've seen in that format. Just everything, the colors, just the way the film was framed, it's gorgeous to behold, even though the story at times, the story is a bit light. My main issue with the movie has always been Matt Cordell, who's the Maniac Cop, his character's motivations in the film. He is kind of a vengeful ghost type / zombie from beyond the grave, and he's killing people. And in a similar way that a lot of people were confused in the original Candyman why Tony Todd was killing predominantly black people. In Maniac Cop, the series, really, Cordell is a good cop. He's a good cop. And he is falsely accused of something. He goes to prison, and because he's a cop, he is shivved and brutalized in the shower one day, and he's mutilated, and he is very, very angry about this, and I believe he dies. I think that's the whole point of Maniac Cop. Now, whether or not he dies in Maniac Cop and then comes back, or if he's just brutalized and comes back, he's definitely dead in Maniac Cop 2. But the problem is, really, he kills predominantly innocent people, for the most part. I mean, he does kill and have a reason of sorts to kill Bruce Campbell in this movie. Spoiler alert, but it happens. It's another infamous thing about Maniac Cop 2. Bruce Campbell dies. One of the main stars of the first movie dies in like the first 10 minutes, somewhere in there. It's very, very, very quick. And so that makes sense, but everybody else is just kind of the good guys. Like he'll go to he'll stop like a robbery or something. Just to give an example, and there's the crook there with the gun, and there's the person who is the victim, and it usually ends with them saying, "Oh, thank you so much for saving me," and then he kills them. And my question was always,
What for?
why is he killing innocent people? He was a good cop. Like in his life, he stood up for the helpless, and he wasn't corrupt. So it's like, why is he all of a sudden in death corrupt? So that was my problem. I know it's the type of movie you're not supposed to think too much about, but once you start to think about that, you start to like, either you're gonna have a problem with it or you're not. The movie has amazing action set pieces. It's fun. It's exciting. It's this movie. This one is inventive. They add a bunch of new stuff to the lore, and it's bigger. He partners with a serial killer in this. It's a very, very odd film, and it's big and it's explosive. It's everything a sequel should be, but that problem remains. So you either can look past it or not. I, for the most part, look past it. The movie, if it wasn't for that flaw, if they just put more thought into that aspect of the film, I feel like it would be a classic, because everything else hits on point. It hits. Now, really, the real question for me is whether it's a movie or a guilty pleasure. That is tough. I'm a story guy. I'm the kind of guy where these problems in stories and plots and flaws in scripts and structure sometimes bother me. It depends on what it is. This one bothers me, but it's one of those things I keep thinking about. It's like to try to, because I want to be okay with it, and try to, maybe it does make sense. What is it? I got to that place with the Candyman thing, at least enough for me in that, and just the way I came to it in my head, and maybe we'll talk about it one day, because Candyman is one of my favorite movies and horror movies of all time. But this one, he's just like, I don't know, he's just really, really pissed off, and he's so depressed that he's just going to go against his own moral code, or maybe in death we have no moral code. I know there is something to be said about a vengeful spirit. Like if you look at like the Ju-on films and like Japanese horror and stuff like, but the Ju-on films specifically, the ghost kills the house and the ghost kills indiscriminately. Doesn't care if you're good or bad. And I think that is closer to perhaps a Candyman type of thing. But there are certain times where it does seem like you just don't understand what this guy's out for, this Matt Cordell dude. Like what he's doing. And then there's the question of, what is he? Is he a ghost? Is he a zombie? What is he? He's a maniac cop. That's what he is. But and you don't need anything else. This script was written by Larry Cohen. I love Larry Cohen. I don't know if I've said that before, and we haven't talked about him in this series, but he's one of my favorites. I mean, his movies, especially the fact that he didn't care about getting work permits, and you watch his movies and they have this kind of real feel. You see like a lot of people, especially the scenes on the streets, you see a lot of real people in these scenes, and you could see the looks on their face, and it was like, what's going on? They really think that everything that's happening is really happening, and they're confused. Sometimes he would hire real people, non-actors, a lot of the time actually. And you'll see in a scene that he gave them lines, and they're just like, that's not an actor, but it has this really, really cool, authentic feel to it. And all of his movies are like that, and it's so great. It's why I love him. and he worked with Bill Lustig on all three Maniac Cop movies. The third one was a nightmare. Maybe we can get into that at another time if you want to look into it yourself. But it was, long story short, pretty much Lustig and I believe Cohen, but definitely Lustig, disowned the film because the movie was basically taken away from him. But taken away from him / he walked off, and they just finished the movie, and it's like an Alan Smithy joint basically because of it. And then he worked with Cohen again in the movie Uncle Sam years later. That movie is not as good as Maniac Cop 2, but I like pretty much all things Larry Cohen. And in my eyes, he can do no wrong. Do no wrong. So, this is so tough. This is so tough. You know what? I'm going to tell you, this movie has problems. It has problems, but all of its strengths are stronger than most other movies of its ilk. It is up there. So I have to give it what a movie. Obviously, I'm not going to give it classic for the reasons I've said, but I'm going to give it. Oh, it wants to be a classic. I'm going to give it what a movie because I feel like it. Sorry. The next movie is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 live-action adaptation of the dark black and white comic. The original comic was a lot more graphic, and they decided, the studio, to try to make more money with it. They made it into a family film of sorts. It's not like a G-rated film, because it does have action and stuff like that, but it is kooky and goofy, and the turtles are teenagers, so they act like teenagers, and they, cowabunga and have fun, and
What the heck was that?
Looked like sort of a big turtle in a trench coat.
skateboard and eat pizza, and they love it. And it really works for the cartoon, and I'd say it works here too. They would get more and more kid-friendly as the sequels go on. There's 3 movies in the series, if I'm remembering correctly, the live-action ones. The puppetry got worse and worse as the movies got on. But the first film is great, and it has Elias Koteas in the role of Casey Jones, the one with the hockey mask, and who joins their gang eventually. The actress who plays April O'Neil, I think the character is, the reporter, is probably the best in the first one. I actually didn't mind the remakes, the 2 newer ones where Megan Fox plays April O'Neil. I liked them. I thought they were a good time, and I really enjoyed the second one, and I hope that they would continue it, but I don't know. It's not looking good. But the first movie, one of the turtles was voiced by Corey Feldman, and he was still getting a good amount of work at the time. Not like Spielberg level work, but he was getting work. A lot of he was entering his direct-to-video era at that point. At least it was the start of it in the 90s. The movie, I watched it again not too long ago. And it's good. It's good if you like kung fu movies and martial art films. It's good. It's like a fantasy. They're mutant turtles, and their sensei is a talking rat. They know what they're doing. They're leading into the ridiculousness of it. If you remember it when you're a kid, it still holds up. The nostalgia is what keeps it alive. But it's actually well made when you look into the story of what they did to the poor performers in the suits, how hot it was, how dangerous it was. It's fascinating to hear about them. When you watch it, it makes it even more meaningful that they were able to pull off, because the actors inside of the turtle suits were basically blind and on the verge of heat stroke at every moment. So it's it's one of those fascinating productions. But the movie, I'd say overall it holds up. It still, it's good for what it is, but it could have been better. My own personal taste, I would say at this point, I'm quite fond of it. I would even watch it again. But for me, it is in guilty pleasure. Another one for the tank, so to speak. Okay, we're going to do one more. And that one more is one of the greatest sequels of all time, Young Guns 2. So it does, just like I said before, it does everything that a good sequel is supposed to do. I watched it again recently. This used to be one of my favorite movies when I was growing up. I even had the soundtrack. I loved the John Bon Jovi "Blaze of Glory" song. I still think it's up there and probably the best song that the band did. It's one of those songs I still know all the lyrics to. I would sing it by myself in my room and stuff, and blast the tape. That's how old I am. And you watch it again, the cast is amazing. Like, it has like every at the time young character actor who would then grow up into, they're still working today, most of them, the cast. Let me just, off the top of my head, Lou Diamond Phillips, Balthazar Getty is very young in this, Emilio Estevez, no Charlie Sheen this time, he was in the first one. Kiefer Sutherland comes back, Christian Slater's in this one, Alan Ruck is even in it, who plays Cameron in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and the cast, it just goes on and on. And the other dude too from Manhunter, what's his name? Oh, I can't remember. He was in Michael Mann's Manhunter. He was in To Live and Die in L.A. I unfortunately can't grab a Blu-ray this time because I don't think I have a Blu-ray with him in it. I wanted to pick up the Manhunter Blu-ray, but it was out of print by the time I got around to it. And same thing with To Live and Die in L.A., which I think it's a great movie. I just never got a chance to buy it, but can't remember. I'm going to guess his first name's William. I can't remember, but he plays Pat Garrett in this movie. This movie, one of the flaws in this movie, because this movie is just like, it's a little downgraded with the graphicness because they wanted to make more money with it, and they had a hit Bon Jovi song, that they were peddling, and all of those actors were up and coming, and a lot of them were big and doing big things, and so they wanted a younger audience to come to this, at least not like kids or anything, but so they rated it PG-13. It still has violence. Even has some nudity, it's just not an R-rated. It's not as R-rated as the first movie was. But that's not a problem with the movie. The main issue with the film, if you gotta pick an issue for the film, is that it is so fast. Like, you could look at it as a strength. It flies by. It is endlessly entertaining. There's not an ounce of fat on this thing. It could be argued that it moves too fast, but it's just it's what the movie is going for. It's what it is. It's a fast, fun popcorn film. There's a lot of funny lines that Emilio Estevez has and scenes. He is a sick bastard in both of these movies. He's gleefully killing people and just having a great time doing it. It's kind of a sick movie in that way, but this movie is so good in so many ways. And maybe it's me. I'm going to vote here based on my own personal tastes. But before I do, let me just rack my brain. Is there anything else that I can say about this movie other than how freaking cool it is and what a shame it is that we didn't get a part 3, even though it doesn't make sense to get a part 3? I don't even know what they do. They've been talking for years about doing it because the movie is bookended by an old, is it Billy the Kid, is it not? Because the movie also ends with him dying, obviously, because in history, Pat Garrett kills Billy the Kid. This movie, after the bookend, opens with Pat Garrett is in his gang. They're buddies. They're best friends. And then they part ways, and then Pat Garrett, this is another flaw in the script, Pat Garrett just kind of gets the job to track down and kill his friend, Billy the Kid, and he takes the job. Another example of this movie going so fast as to we can't really get his motivation as to why he would do this. And, but it, for the most part, that aspect works. So arguably there's some story issues, but everything else is top notch. The movie looks great. The movie sounds great. The score is amazing. The song is great. The cast, everybody is just doing their best. Kiefer Sutherland is just top tier. Kiefer Sutherland in this movie. Everybody is great. Christian Slater is basically just Christian Slater in this movie, and he's great. Lou Diamond Phillips is giving you what you want from him. Everything and everybody is amazing. It's a fun, on-the-run road movie. You follow these outlaws and they're having a good time. And that's it. I think I've said enough about, I've gushed enough, and I've also mentioned the flaws. But even with the flaws, man, this is going to be tough. How am I going to do it? Because right now, for me, it's between classic and what a movie. But I have admitted the flaws that this movie has. So, do I vote my conscience or do I vote my heart? Are they the same thing? My heart or my gut? I don't know. One or the other. My heart is definitely in the classic category. My common sense is in what a movie category. But, man, this movie, it's so fun. It's so good. I'm so sorry, people. This list is probably going to disturb a lot of people, and I don't mean that, especially all you Die Hard 2 fans. But yeah, no. Young Guns 2 is a classic. I love sequels. This is one of the greatest sequels of all time. If you have a chance, check it out. I mean it. All right, thank you so much again for joining me. This part 4, we're gonna get through these movies, I promise. We're almost done. Not quite, but who knows? Maybe we'll finish. Maybe we won't. No, I'm kidding. I'm planning on finishing. I don't know how long it's gonna take me. I have no idea. But and then at the end, when we get to the end of this, I actually want to make a proper listing of, at the very least, the ones in the classic and the what a movie categories. I might just do the classic, depending on how many classics I have in the end, and just do a proper, what's the best one? I want them to compete for my love. We're going to find who the best of these are. We're going to find who my favorite is. They're going to fight to the death for my affection. It will happen. And you will know who the victor is. The better film. Until then, goodbye.